To be honest, I have mixed feelings about the sudden ubiquity of people's fear about the rise of fascism in this country. It's really devoid of the history of this country. I feel like this fear is predicated not on a critical analysis, but instead of what they're being told. If you look at the history of this country and compare it to the defining characteristics of fascism, you can find every single characteristic in the fabric of this country. The hyper-nationalism, that's been a prominent feature of American society since its inception. Authoritarianism, going from police as, slave catchers to all the way up into now, to the militarization of them. The fact that politicians, every single politician tends to have this misconception that their authority is derived from the consent of the people. And the problem is that they feel like they have authority. That's a problem, right? But when you look at another defining characteristic of fascism, it's that there's a natural hierarchy to society. That is a very it's a very predominant feature of fascism, and that is a very predominant feature of American society. I mean, think about it. How many times have you heard a politician vow to restore the middle class? The fact is, you can't have a middle without a top and a bottom. That's a hierarchy. Right? Let's see, what else? The suppression of opposition. The suppression of opposition. I mean, just look at everything that has ever been done when there's been social upheaval. Everything from massacres at Jackson State and Kent State, Bacon's Rebellion, every single Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, John Brown, the Stonewall Rebellion, the bombing of Move, right, in the 80s, even the college kids who were, nationwide protesting against the genocide in Palestine, and look what they did. Look what they did to these kids. Look what happened during the George Floyd uprising, right? Or any single Black Lives Matter protest. It's always been violently suppressed. And that is a defining characteristic of fascism. And the fact that fascism in other countries has had a very present face to be able to put to it, right? Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, Salazar, right? You could always put like a very specific face to the fascism in these other countries. In America, the fascism, although there's a dictatorship, has never had a specific face. that we've been able to put to it, right? The dictatorship is the dictatorship of capital, right? Capital controls every aspect of American life, and that is a fact, right? You do not get to choose your own schedule at work. You don't get to choose what is done with the products that you produce. You don't get to choose what is done with the profit that comes in from when what you produced is sold. You don't get to choose any of that, right? You don't get to choose what time you wake up every day. You don't get to have a say in how your work life is structured, right? You don't have a say. You don't have a say in what the prices are. You don't have a say in what your mortgage payment is going to be, or what your interest rate is going to be. You don't have a say in any of that. But you think you live in a democracy because you get to vote. To be honest, in North Korea they get to vote. The reputation that North Korea has, they get to vote. So the idea that fascism is just suddenly arising because Trump is so blatantly fascist is asinine. The only thing that he's done is taken the mask off of American fascism and shown everybody. And of course, just like in any other instance of fascist onsets, there's going to be people who are vehemently for it and people who are assiduously against it. That's a fact. But this idea that it's new or that it's, just starting is, like I said, completely devoid of any historical, critical analysis of this country's socio-economic and political arrangement. It's entirely predicated on what people have been told to think instead of actually comparing the conditions. And honestly, I think that a big part of that comes from people's idea that your claims are what make you. And this is categorically false. Claiming to be a Christian is not what makes you a Christian. It's how you behave. It's how you move through life. It is your everyday habits. It is your character. That's what makes you a Christian. What makes you a communist is how your social arrangement operates on a day-to-day basis. That's what makes you a communist country, is how your socioeconomic arrangement operates. It's not what you claim it to be. And it's the same with democracy. Claiming to be a democracy is not what makes you a democracy. And if your claim that you're a democracy is supported by very, very trivial, very minute little instances of democratic practices, that just means that your benchmark for democracy is very, very far removed from what actually constitutes liberation. And again, that comes from being completely devoid of any analysis for for the American makeup. This sudden fear, the sudden widespread panic of fascism is grossly misplaced. And it's a day late and a dollar short. But my mixed feeling comes in when I consider deprivation theory, right? In sociology, deprivation theory states that the masses will not uprise. There will not be any significant social upheaval unless and until the masses are deprived of enough of their rights. And I gotta say, it's, to me, I'm like, the pacification that Americans have been enduring and have been tolerating, you know, for the past 200 plus years, is all kind of going to the wayside. We're being stripped of those pacifications. And part of me is hoping, not all of me, because what it would mean for the most marginalized people in this country could be life-threatening. And that's what I worry about, you know. Obviously, like, they're the ones who are going to go first. You know, black people, poor people, you know, trans people, immigrants, you know, homosexuals, all or LGBTQ, sorry, whatever the proper vernacular is, they're all going to feel it first. And they're going to feel it the hardest. And that's what I worry about. But the other part of me is like, if that's what is going to drive people to move to action, I would love to see that. Because honestly, I'm really sick of people thinking that they can vote away fascism. And they've been trying to for the past 200 plus years. And these are just my thoughts.